and 314 for a shooting at Century Theaters. They're saying somebody's shooting in the auditorium.
Roger, keep your fires west of the smoke. You're cleared hot. An officer hit. Send me the world.
Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again.
Welcome to Tactical Tangents.
Welcome back to Tactical Tangents. This is Mike. This episode is brought to you by Point 6. Point 6 merino wool socks and base layers are built with performance in mind. Merino wool is a great natural fiber that controls moisture, temperature, and friction to keep you comfortable, and I have been wearing their socks every day at work for years now. Their socks are made in the U.S. and have a lifetime guarantee, so go buy the last pair of socks you will ever need at point6.com.
This is Jim, and I wanted to chat real quick about positive mental attitude. You probably already know a thing or two about staying positive. There was probably a sign up in some of your classrooms growing up about it. Maybe your parents and coaches talked about it. And you probably see yourself as a positive person. And that's awesome. Definitely do that. But we still have some ground to cover in professionalizing and maturing and maybe even weaponizing a positive attitude. So stick with me through this. Now, generally speaking, when we talk about positive attitude, we're talking about optimism, right? Positive outlook about events. But if you're a tactician, you know better. You know hope is not a plan. So you don't get to just sit there and smile and be like, yay, everything's awesome. Well, everything goes to shit, right? You probably get paid to be a little bit pessimistic, frankly, and to think of all the things that could go wrong. In fact, maybe you're the type of person who only thinks about all the things that could go wrong. Maybe you're that guy at Disneyland with the t-shirt that's like, if I am shot, follow me, or I am the wolf in a land of sheep. And if you're that guy, that's cool. I understand that. But you don't get to sit there and just think about how awful everything is and how dangerous everything is either, right? You need some balance in there. So I don't have much patience for idle cheerleading and the spirit fingers, and you can't just positivity your way through a tough problem. You can't positivity your way through Hell Week or SEAL training or whatever, any more than you can mindset your way through a fight. But you also don't get to sit there and sulk your way through any of it either. So we know that it's more than just attitude. We know that it's more than just your mood or your feelings. Yes, some optimism is a good thing, but it's got to be grounded to be useful. And a little bit of pessimism, frankly, is a good thing, but it also has to be grounded to be useful. So how do we turn those characteristics of, human cognition into something useful? Well, for me, that starts with cognitive framing. Cognitive is like how your thoughts are processed, right? The framing is how you control how you're processing thoughts. And one of my big rules for positive attitude and framing is you never get to say this sucks. You never get to idly complain. You always have to turn a problem into a solution. That's easier said than done, but you got to do it, right? You always have to turn that this sucks into this sucks, and this is what I'm going to do about it. This is what I'm going to do to make it suck less. This is what I'm going to do to make it suck less, at least for the next guy. You got to change how you're thinking about the shitty situation, right? And it's about taking a problem-solving approach to it instead of a problem-fixated approach. Again, you can be pessimistic and think of all the things that go wrong. You don't get to stop there, though. And my current boss has a saying about this that I really like. He says, I am done just admiring the problem. I dig that. There's a lot of people I've worked with in the military who are really, really good at identifying and talking about problems, right? But at some point, you have to take action and either fix the problem or somehow otherwise navigate it. You have to do that. You can't just sit there and stare at it, right? So being action-oriented helps. You got to remind yourself that you're your own rescuer, right? No one's coming. It's up to us. Let's do this, right? And you're the hero of your own story. And maybe that sounds poetic or foofy or arrogant, but it's true. Right? You've got to be able to get yourself out of your ugly situations. Don't wait for someone else to come solve your problems for you or come rescue you. Maybe they're coming, maybe they're not. And that reframing also has to do with how you think about a situation. Maybe you're in a survival situation. Maybe the zombies showed up, or the Democrats, or the Republicans, or whoever, and now you're living on bugs and rats. Many people in the course of human history have had to survive on gross food. And there's a way you have to think about eating gross food, right? You don't eat in survival, you muck it down. You don't kill fluffy things in survival, you thump them. There's no medium rare in survival. There's only well done, right? Those aren't maggots you're eating. They're just crunchy rice that moves. Good protein. So there's a way to think about it, right? You thump them, you muck them down. And that is a huge part of survival. It's a huge part of what I've been taught in military survival training is literally the phrase, thump it, muck it down, right? You're getting over your food aversions, whatever it is you're scared of, and you're just getting it done. You got shot down behind enemy lines? Well, that sucks, but it sucks worse for the enemy because now they're stuck with you, right? It's about how you think about the situation. Speaking of that, I'm going to tell you a story. It's what we do here at the podcast. Tell you the story about a guy named Lance Saigon, true American badass, who you've probably never heard of. And Lance Saigon, Captain Saigon, was a backseater on F-4s in Vietnam, so fighter guy, right? So he was dropping a bomb on his 52nd combat mission, and that bomb detonated prematurely under his jet. He shot himself down, and he found himself down and injured behind enemy lines. So shitty day, right? We launched a massive recovery operation to try to get him out, but the area was just too hot. Something like 20 planes took battle damage just trying to get to him. They tried to drop a helicopter hoist to him. It didn't work out. They were taking too much fire and they couldn't positively spot where he was. So he ended up stuck. And for 45, 46 days, he had to evade behind enemy lines, right? And this is despite getting mangled in that initial ejection. He had a skull fracture. He had a mangled hand. He had a compound fracture of his leg. And so he couldn't really walk. He couldn't really crouch and run and hide. Mostly what he had to do after that initial ejection was he kind of slid across his back on his elbows, across limestone rocks and jungle floor for 45 days. Not much to eat, not much to drink. A lot of bugs, a lot of bad guys. And he ended up getting rolled up by the bad guys, by the North Vietnamese soldiers. One or two of them rolls him up. They're starting to do their kind of initial captivity stuff with him. And he mustered the strength to get up, beat one guard unconscious, beat him down, thumped him, and he crawled back into the jungle. Well, the NVA kind of caught on what was going on, and they recaptured him, and they ended up moving him to a more serious detention facility, like an actual formal detention facility, and they just beat the hell out of him. They tortured him basically to death. And the whole time he told them to fuck off. He gave his name, rank, service number, and that was about it. And when they were at the point where it didn't do any good to torture him anymore, they left him with another American prisoner of war. And even while he was dying, Lance Saigon was working escape plans. He never gave up faith. He never gave up fighting. And he was fighting for you. Think about that. Think about that in the context of your own struggles. And that's not to say that yours are any better or any worse than what he went through, but think about what he went through and what he needed to tell himself through that whole experience, right? So to kind of lighten the mood on that, let me tell you about a joke Mike and I have, and that's anytime Mike talks about positive self-talk. And it's a big deal for both of us. We're both big about, self-talk, but I get cheesed out pretty quickly about like the positive affirmations. And I always joke about Mike looking himself in the mirror and be like, I'm smart enough, I'm pretty enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. But you know what? Self-talk really does have a place. And often it is exactly that. It's giving yourself a pep talk, right? You have to look yourself in the mirror in the morning and know you can handle the next event. the next day at the police academy, the next evaluation or check ride, the next day at pilot training, or the next day at clown school, or even that next day in captivity. Whatever it is, you've got to be able to tell yourself you're going to get through it. And again, I would stress the problem-solving aspect of it. I'm going to get through today, and here's how, right? Turn it into an action statement. A couple sayings that I like in that self-talk thing, and they're maybe cliche, but whatever, I'm a cliche guy. I like them. Mike and I both learned from a pararescueman back when we were in high school. One of his big sayings, Master Sergeant George R. Miller III, is your best isn't good enough. You got to give them your worst too. Now, say what you want about millennials or Gen Z or whatever, but the idea of everyone getting a trophy, well, you tried your best and not worrying about the outcome, fuck that. Outcomes matter, right? And so I want you to be able to go past just giving it your best. Give them your worst too. Especially when you're in a fight, especially when you're in a fight for your life, right? Give them everything, right? Little sayings, and they're cheesy, but it doesn't matter. Like the Finding Nemo, like just keep swimming, swimming. Like if that's what's going to get you through the ruck march or whatever, do that. If it's just thinking about putting one foot in front of the other, do that. There's the meme of the dog in the bar that's on fire, and he's like, "This is fine." I always get a chuckle out of that, and just thinking about that in a shitty situation kind of helps me get through it. Another thing that I've found I need to tell myself is trust the process. I am a compulsively results-oriented guy, and I get very impatient very quickly with things like a process, like a diet or a workout plan. I don't like those. I want instant, immediate, dramatic results from basically no effort. And I have to tell myself over and over and over, trust the process, this will work. And kind of related to that, I'd offer that a lot of positive mental attitude is really mental discipline, except discipline sounds tough and positive mental attitude sounds fluffy. So people like that. But I'll tell you what, real PMA, real positive mental attitude requires you to control your thoughts. And you're going to have demons. Everyone has demons, right? It's those little nagging mind viruses and negative thoughts and stuff. What I would offer is acknowledge them, acknowledge your demons, maybe even hug your demons. Yeah, I'm scared of heights, but you know what? I got to jump out of this airplane to make my next assignment or whatever. And then you focus on your task, right? You're allowed to be scared. It's okay to be scared. You got to do it anyway. It's okay to be scared, but you got to do your task anyway. To me, that's courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear or whatever. It is doing what you got to get done despite it. And it also means not giving those demons, whatever those demons are, any more mental bandwidth than you absolutely have to. Acknowledge them. Yep. Scared of that. Yep. I'm afraid that's going to happen. Okay, here's what I'm going to do about it, right? And then staying on task. It also means things like doing the mental rehearsal on your drive into work. Think about your radio calls. Think about your checklists, whatever it is you need to do, procedures. And on your drive home, give yourself a little debrief. This is what I did right. This is what I did wrong. This is what I want to do better in the future. That is part of your positive mental attitude. It also includes controlling the tone that you talk to yourself with. Do you abuse yourself in your internal monologue, or are you nice to yourself? You don't always have to be super nice to yourself. You can call yourself out on your bullshit. That's cool. But think about what tone you're using with yourself. I would offer that positive mental attitude also requires you to kind of stay in the moment. And there are all kinds of different moments you might be facing, right? Maybe it's an interview. Maybe you're responding to a mass casualty incident, or you're flying a compound in-flight emergency with battle damage. Maybe you are a cop on a traffic stop with 4 bad-looking dudes looking to hurt you. You're on your own, and help is 5 minutes away. Well, those are all tough situations. But what can you do right now to improve your situation? And it's not just for catastrophes. Like, when you're in a stressful moment, shorten your time scale. That makes it more like doable, right? The way you eat an elephant is 1 bite at a time, right? So what do I have to do to make it through the next minute? What do I have to do to make it through the next 5 minutes? What do I have to do to make it through lunch? What do I have to do to make it through the day? And consider, like, humor is a huge deal in this. Can you make yourself laugh in a shitty situation? Can you make the guys around you laugh? The people around you matter. And don't forget, they're often looking to you to see how to act. Whether you see yourself as a leader or not, you're part of the group, right? So be the guy other people want to have in the life raft. And very often, that's the ability to find humor even in dark, shitty situations. Speaking of shitty situations, let's talk about resilience. And again, that's kind of like one of those words that triggers me because of all of the mandatory training I've had about, the please don't kill yourself, please don't rape anyone at work, mandatory training things that I've gone through in the military, which is really too bad because resilience actually is very important, right? We've done podcast episodes about that topic. You're going to have some shitty days. Sorry if I'm the first person to tell you that, but you're going to have some shitty days. That's life. That's war. That's the human experience. And I don't know what form your shitty days will take, right? Maybe your family will experience a miscarriage. Maybe your wife will get cancer. Maybe you will have a life-altering injury, or you'll get it captured by the dirtbags, the ISIS guys, or whatever, right? How you handle those shitty days is a big deal. It's a huge part of life, right? One thing that might help is accepting that shitty days are part of life, right? Many people have gotten some solace from a concept called stoicism, which is kind of the phrase, accept the things you can't change, change the things you can't accept, right? You kind of detach yourself a little bit and you say, yep, this is shitty, but this is also part of being human, is experiencing loss, tragedy, pain, all those things. I recently heard a pastor at a memorial service for a childhood cancer victim talk about shitty days, right? And he said, you will never get over this, but you will get through it. I personally felt some meaning in that phrasing. You will never get over this, but you will get through it. I think a big part of resilience is also expectation management, right? Accept that things are going to go wrong sometimes. And maybe even if you do everything right, things might still go wrong. Going back to the evasion scenario where you're hiding from the bad guys, maybe you call in rescue and the rescue helicopter lands the next hilltop over from you. Well, that sucks. But you don't get to give up just because something went wrong, right? Get your ass over to the other hilltop. Get on the radio. Hunker down and wait for them to come back the next night. Do something, but you don't just get to eat your 9mm over it, right? Another concept that I love is fight relaxed. Have the self-awareness to catch when you're getting assed up. When are you turning into a lieutenant under mental pressure lump? You have to calm yourself down out of the red zone into a cognitive working zone. And you can do lots of things. You can do some box breathing. That's where you breathe in, hold it, breathe out, hold it, breathe in, hold it, breathe out, hold it. A lot of different things. You can look up breathing techniques on YouTube and stuff, and they do make a difference. You can do some reframing, but get back somehow into the problem-solving realm and out of the, oh my God, I'm going to die realm, right? One of the things I don't tell my kids, don't panic, right? It doesn't help. It doesn't mean anything to them. I tell my kids, fight relaxed. If you are ever trapped, relax and solve the problem. Take a deep breath, look around you, think about what you can do, kind of take stock of your resources, take stock of what's threatening you, and then do something to fix it. Now, when all else fails, sometimes everything goes wrong. Again, part of life, right? And I've talked about this before in previous episodes, is one of my favorite parts about military survival manuals is that there's almost always a page toward the end of the manual that talks about spiritual resilience. And I see that as like, if all else fails, like when in doubt, maybe pray. I'm not a religious cat. I'm usually pretty cynical about religious stuff, but there is some value there. Have some faith. Help is coming. If you're a hostage, America is coming for you. Figure out what you believe in and focus on it. Maybe that's God. If it is, good for you. Maybe that's the American flag and what it represents. Maybe that's the guy or the gal next to you. Maybe it's mom, apple pie, and the girl next door. And going back to the self-talk, I think an internal monologue is important. I think that could be praying. Pray to God, pray to Allah, pray to yourself. Make a deal with yourself to get through it. Make a deal with God to get through it. Make a deal with the devil. I don't care, but get through it, right? And talking about it, even to yourself, might help. So that's all I got. Hopefully there was some nugget in here that will help you rally and get through a shitty day. And if you get captured, I want you to remember guards are edible. They're free. Thump them, muck them down. Clean your teeth, carry on. Keep the faith. You will get through it. That's all I got. Be safe out there. Be tough.